to start. Hello and welcome. My name is Alexei Horshilov. I'm from Nexton Consulting. And today, we will be, for the next 3 hours, we will be talking about Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. And we're going to try to cover as much material as possible. I will try to make it as informative as possible for you to go over a variety of topics. And just to give you a sense of the agenda for today, you see we have 19 or so points. We're going to be talking about things that are directly in D365 Finance and Operation. And from now on, I will refer to it as D365 FO, just to make it shorter. So D365 FO. But we also will be talking about things that surround this system, right? So we'll be talking about Power Platform, Power Apps, things that are related to data migration, for example, licensing topics, and things like that. Right, so that will be. I try to structure it as logical as possible, just so you can follow, and I'll make sure that you have an opportunity to ask questions if you have any. All right. So with that being said, let's just move on to the first topic: is what exactly is Dynamic D365 FO? Right. So Microsoft would say that's intelligent business application, but what exactly does it mean? What does I can see a lot of business applications. What exactly an intelligent business application actually implies, right? So in a nutshell, it allows you to run a business without actually leaving to any other system. So it incorporates finance modules, like all the basics ones, like you think of AP, AR, GL, fixed asset, and things like that you can see on the slide. But it also has very robust operational components. So when I say, but what exactly these operation components are, I can point to few areas specifically. For example, on the warehousing side, we have an ability to go and run our warehouse in a guided fashion. That means we can do the PO receiving or transfer order receiving using handheld devices that are running on Windows 10 application or Android application. We can also do the guided picking, system-directed picking for your sales order picking. We can also do some containerization and things like that. So it's a full-blown advanced WMS system that is part of Dynamics 365 FO. It also has very robust retail components. So what by retail component, I'm saying that you have a cloud POS, which runs in the web browser, or you can install a client that will be a fully functional point of sale register software that incorporates and integrates out of box with headquarters, with your back office system for financial reporting, for your inventory updates and things like that. And I can go on and on and on. But the idea is that what Microsoft is trying to do is trying to keep that application F&O up to date, right? So what that means is every 6 months or twice a year, you will be getting updates with new functionality, because this is it's sold as a service, and hence, in order to keep that service attractive, Microsoft will be constantly adding new applications. So what they did till recently, they basically look for the best in breed from partner solutions, any ISV solution that is on the market, and if it passes certain tests, it will be incorporated into the standard solution going forward. So the few examples that I have here is Dynaway EAM, so Enterprise Asset Management. That's an ISV that was used to be sold separately. Now it will become a part of Dynamics 365 standard package. Stable credit in the collections. A lot of functionality that was used before Blue Horseshoe Advanced Warehousing was actually so popular that Microsoft decided to buy IP rights to it and actually put it into the standard package. So Dynamics 365 FO, on the background, it's what used to be called an ERP system, and that was called Dynamics X 2009, then it became Access in 2012. But basically, it's an enterprise resource planning software. We're not trying to use this terminology anymore just because we're trying to position it as the business application without putting a label, is it CRM system or ERP? But basically, Dynamics 365 FO came from Dynamics X 2012 ERP, right? Now it's a cloud version, of course. So it's a web-based business application with some intelligent components built in, and I will be talking about those in the later slides. Now, once we talk about the application itself, now how exactly can you access it? I think the next question we need to answer is, what are our deployment options, right? And you see here a table, it's very busy here, but the bottom line here is we have 3 options, 2 distinct options, which is cloud-based and the local business data, which is what is a lot of people refer to as on-premise deployment, and there's some in between. There's this cloud and edge scenario here as well. So let's start with the first one, the cloud. A lot of applications now are available as a service, so we're talking about software as a service scenario. This service is hosted on Azure cloud, very robust, very powerful, very secure cloud. We have multiple servers located, even here in Canada, I think we have 2. And what you get with this deployment type is ability to use all the analytical tools that require some computation power. So if I were to highlight one area here in the cloud scenario is that you will be able to use integrated Power BI dashboards. You will be able to use Outlook's integration, Logic Apps integration, machine learning, all those features that need data and need computing resources to actually crunch that data and provide some sort of meaningful, useful insight. Right? So that's what you will get with the cloud. If we're talking about cloud and edge scenario, that came about just to support certain scenarios where the internet connection may not be as reliable, and hence we need to have a local database that we can always access even if internet connection goes down. Sometimes we have a regulatory requirement that say that certain data centers have to be located in a specific locale, in a specific region. They cannot live to a foreign country, for example. Another example of the cloud and edge, just for you to understand, it's basically the idea is we have some local machines that gather the data but don't do much with it. They just record it. So a typical scenario will be some sort of remote pump that is installed there, and we have a small computer that gathers some readings from sensors, for example, and just records it into the local machine, right? So that will be our edge computer. And then from time to time, that data is basically pushed into the cloud by using the syncing process. Once the data gets into the cloud, where we can take full advantage of Azure capabilities, that's when it will be analyzed. Maybe, for example, coming back to that example of the pump, we may decide, based on the data that we receive from our sensors on that pump, we may need to do a preventive maintenance soon, just because based on the historical readings, we know that that specific pump may break down soon, and in order to avoid any service interruptions, we may decide go and do the service before that, right? So that's what I mean by we have small, fairly small and simple computers close to the action, and then they're pushing the data into the cloud where it can be analyzed and useful insight can be derived. Another example of the cloud deployment will be a retail scenario. So we have a retail store that needs to be operational even if internet connection to the cloud, Azure cloud, goes down, right? Because the internet connection may be poor in that specific area. So one of the scenarios for the edge and cloud will be where we have a database, a store database, right in the physical store. So all the transactions that are recorded through registers through POS terminals, they will be recorded in that local store database. And once or twice a day, let's say, that these transactions are now being synced to Azure Cloud, to our retail headquarters, to our main back office systems where they can be analyzed, certain financial transactions will be posted, etc. Right? So that's another example of that edge and cloud deployment that we can mention here, right? A retail example. And the third and last one, that is what's called here local business data. The idea here is that a customer or the partner of the customer is responsible for deploying server infrastructure, installing all the necessary software, keep it running, maintaining it, etc. Right? So again, there are maybe multiple reasons why. Regulatory requirements that force you to have control over your data and not send it outside. There may be some examples of companies already made an investment in infrastructure, and they would like to keep it and use this infrastructure before it gets out of date. But what you need to be aware of here is there is a list of features that are not yet available in on-prem or local business data deployment, and that's because of limitations of a lot of insight that Microsoft can offer you in a cloud scenario that just is not supported yet in an on-prem or local business data scenario, because it requires sharing that data with Microsoft and basically crunching that data to produce a meaningful insight. So if you're interested, I have a link that describes the features that are not yet available in on-prem deployment yet. Microsoft is working in making that list shorter, but certain features will never be available. For example, telemetry. Certain features like integration with Power BI and Office integration, I think it is on the list that is not yet available, but potentially down the road they will be. So if I were to conclude this specific slide is, in order for you to pick the right deployment option, you need to consider features that you will use. Will you use any Azure Analytics, for example? If yes, then maybe cloud will be more suitable for you. You need to consider the licensing costs, as well as the internet connectivity and any regulatory requirements. Okay. Now, so we talked so far about Dynamics 365 FO, right? But you see, I was careful to say that it's 365 FO, Finance and Operation. Doesn't mean there is anything else. Well, before I proceed, I'll ask you, do you know, have you guys seen Dynamics 365 FO? If yes or okay. So have you seen or heard about Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement, CE? All right, so have you heard, or not heard, so have you heard about maybe D365 for sales, or maybe field service, or anything like this? No, okay. Sorry. So what I'm trying to get here is that D365 FO is a part of a bigger family, and that family is called D365 platform, right? So what is part of that platform? So first of all, you see there's a finance and operation right here. So this is what we will be. This is what we'll be talking about here for the most part, right? But also we have an application that is called customer service, and that is used to be known as CRM, right? But it also there's sales, which is kind of part of the CRM as well. We also have an application called field service, project service automation. So those three now are combined into a plan that is called Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement, CE, right? So we have FO, we have CE. But we also have another part of the family here. For example, Business Central. That's what it was used to be known as Navision or NAV. We also have apps like Talent and Retail. And those are kind of very interesting cases is because what Microsoft is trying to do is they're saying, listen, we're so proud and we're so confident in the power of our product, we will make it easier for companies to switch. And instead of asking you, a company, you're using Oracle, you're using SAP, do you want to upgrade your finance and operation system, which is your ERP, the main system of your company, instead of asking to do that big transition straight into ERP, they said, let's make it easier. We will allow you to use just retail piece. And retail, D365 for retail is basically that front end, the POS register software that integrates with back office system without any of manufacturing pieces or any of the production related pieces, right? So you can switch to retail first, and then if you like it, then you can upgrade, easily switch to Dynamics 365 FO. Same thing with the talent. So the talent used to be part of HR module in Dynamics 365. So it's an HR, so it's an ability for you to hire people, conduct the interview, post your job postings on the website, on LinkedIn, for example. So now it's separated in the application that is called D365 Talent. You can just start using the Talent. Very easy to switch. It's purely HR application. Once you like it and you got used to it, you're already using maybe Office 365 in your organization, then the next logical step is to switch to one of those systems that will be either Business Central or F&O, right? So that's what constitutes and actually makes a family. Also, what is not seen here is those add-ons, like for example, Powered Platforms. So you have Power Apps, we will be talking about these too. We have Power BI, which is business intelligence, visualization of your data. We have it here too, as well. We will be talking about this. We also have some add-ons like artificial intelligence, because without this Azure computing power, it needs to be put to a good use. And Microsoft decided to build services that are deemed to be artificial intelligence services that are available right now for customer service, which is right here, and the sales applications, right? And what we need to understand here, those are separate applications that can work great on their own. I do not need, if I would like to use just field service, I can just use that. That app will have its own database, will work great on its own. But they work better, or there are some synergies to have if you combine several applications. The most popular combination is your customer service and F&O. So we're talking about something that is CRM or sales related in a customer service side, and once that sales was closed, then execution and fulfillment of that sales order, of that specific production order, can be done in your ERP system, which is finance and operations. So those applications are independent, they have their own database, but there's something that actually unites them and allows them to work together good. So what is that? That is something that is called CDS for apps. And in here, I will go very slowly, but I would like to first get the concepts explained to you if possible. So the first thing that before we talk about CDS, we need to talk about CDM. So what is CDM? Alexi, you're just kind of throwing a lot of acronyms at me. So CDM is your common data model. What it is basically some logical structures that, for example, explain a specific concept. So we have something that is called data entities, and these data entities are basically collections or the tables. So you can have a data entity for a customer, right? So your data entity for the customer will probably have fields like customer name, customer address, customer industry, customer context, and things like that. So all these fields that explain and describe the customer are united into data entity that is called customer. We also have data entities for sales orders, purchase orders, vendors, items, etc. Right? So we have a list of those data entities, and that's basically your CDM. So CDM is this logical structure of data entities that are connected to each other, and there is some logic behind it that supports data validation before you can read from these entities and write into these entities. Okay, so once we know what the CDM is, common data model, we now need to talk about CDS for applications, for example. In this case, this is a common database. It's a common database service for applications. This CDS has its own database that has these entities in it, right? So entities such as sales order, purchase orders, customers, and vendors. And we can have all these apps that are on the top that are Microsoft applications like D365 FO, D365 CE, or non-Microsoft applications like Google, Trello, Salesforce, etc. They can go and write into that database by populating information about the specific entity, or read information from that database if, let's say, they need to inquire on the customer that it has a number 001. So these applications, Microsoft application and non-Microsoft application, through the data entities can read and write into the common database. And that database can be shared by multiple different applications coming from Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, etc. Okay? And what I will show you here, I think it just kind of makes sense to show a little bit of this, do a little demonstration here, is I will show you how the entity look, right? So maybe for you to kind of get a bit more visual, I will navigate to the list of entities right here. And those are the entities that we have in our CDS environment. So you can see, for example, account here, accounts group. So if I would like, for example, to search for sales order, I just type in sales order, and the system will show me all the entities that have a sales order word in it, right? So let's go into one of these entities, sales order. Once you go in it, it will give you the list of the fields. So we have a sales order ID, we have a name of the sales order, we have a description, we have total amounts, we have all these fields that comprise that sales order data entity. So you can imagine that if an application would like to create a new sales order, they need to provide these fields to us, right? Some of them are marked as required. So if any application, be it FO, CE, or Salesforce, would like to say, I have a new sales order that I would like to create, they will just need to populate these fields, making sure that all required fields are populated. And then we're going to have that brand new record stored in that CDS database. And from there on, maybe Microsoft application can pick up that sales order and actually do something with it. Maybe update it and say that it was shipped or delivered, or maybe display it in the sales application, Dynamics 365 for sales. Okay, so this is a list of our fields. If we click here, it will show us the keys for example, that's your primary key here, right? Then it will show us any relationships. So that sales order entity has a relationship to an account entity. Why? Because the sales order is created for the account, so we need to make sure that account number that is populated on the sales order has a connection to an account. It has a connection to an opportunity data entity. It has a connection to organization data entity. So it basically describes you logical relationships that the sales order data entity has. Then we have the field groups, which is kind of a bit more irrelevant, just combination. It's a combination of multiple fields put together. And then we can inquire even on the data itself. So in this case, it will go to a table, and it will show me all the sales orders that are currently populated in that specific entity in that database. All right. Now, the next question you asked me, all right, Alexei, so that's great. You see some data. How did this data came actually? How was it populated? Who actually populated that data in that sales order entity? And for us to be able to answer that, we need to click on the connections, because connections are responsible for reading and writing into that specific entity. And you can see here I have a large number of connections established. For example, this one is my Dynamics 365 FO connection. So I know that this application, my FO connection, can actually read and write into that entity. We also have connections to CE. We also have connection, for example, to Gmail, to my Gmail calendar. I have connection to my Outlook 365, Office 365. I have connections to OneNote. I have connections to Power BI, etc., etc. So you see, there are a lot of Microsoft and non-Microsoft connections. I'm not sure what the number is right now, but it's closer to, and it's constantly being added to. It's like something like around 500 different connections that I can establish. So once I have this connection, then you can imagine that, for example, my Power BI can probably read the data from that data entity, and I can run a report on that database, that common CDS database that I have created, right? And of course, some applications need just read access, for example, Power BI, so you can generate a report. Some applications need write access, because they need to be able to write into this table. So this gives you a sense of all the different connections that you can use to populate or read from that CDS database. All right. So now once we take a look at this, the last thing that I would like to touch on CDS would be something that is called environments. So for that, I will need to navigate to an admin center for my Power Platform. And in here, we will see two environments here. So why would I need two environments, you're asking? Because each environment has its own database. So what I'm doing is, if I decide I need to integrate, for example, my CRM and ERP, so finance and operation, application, and to the CE, which is my customer engagement. If I decide that I need them to be talking and exchanging, for example, information about orders or prospects, I may want to choose to create a separate environment with a separate database that will have this customer-related entities in it. So think of each environment as a database, right? So there's a database behind each of these environments. All right. Now, here's some details about my environment here. What I would like to show you here is that it has a database once it's populated. So right now it's not restricted. That means that database is open for our application to read and write from. But what I'm also interested in is showing the resources. So what resources are currently using that database, that environment? And the list is right here. So first of all, I see a list of applications that are currently using that database. And I can see an offline timesheet entry application, a Power App that I built, and I also have an employee-owned equipment, an application that I will show you later on during today's session. So it shows me a list of applications that are feeding from that environment. And it also shows me the flows. This is a Microsoft Flow tool, which we'll be talking later on as well. I also have a one flow connected to that environment. So basically I have an environment, it has its own database, and that database being updated by certain applications, and Flow also uses this application. Make sense? So that's more or less what I wanted to cover you, to explain to you on the CDS side, right? So we have CDS for application. That means there's a database that application read and write to. And we have CDS for analytics, which has a separate set of data entities. They're a bit more aggregated entities that can be used for reporting, be it a Power BI tool or any other BI solution that you have. Okay. Next thing we want to talk about is to switch gears a little bit and talk about how do you manage these Dynamics 365 FO environments, these systems, right? And there's a portal that is called LCS, which stands for Lifecycle Services. That's a portal that is used primarily by IT manager, IT professionals to manage your D365 FO environments, right? So that's a separate portal. It's a website where you can log in and start managing your environment. So let's take a look. So I will go into LCS, and let me just kind of start from the beginning. So I'll log into the LCS website, which I will have to do right now because it just kicked me out. So we'll just do, it's lcs.dynamics.com. I will log in, click on sign in, and I will log in with my Windows credentials. So here's my email, my password. So that's a portal, and within that portal, I have projects. So if you're a partner, for example, you may have one project for each client, and within each project, you may have 2, 3, 5 different environments, right? Why? Because you may have an environment for testing, environment for development, environment for UAT, environment for production, etc., right? So in here, I have several projects here, right? So what I will go and navigate to one of those projects and just to see what exactly is in that project. So the first thing you see is a list of environments. In this case, in this project, I have only one environment right here. It shows me the status, it's Azure hosted, and it is deployed. All right, so what can I do here? So basically anything you imagine IT person would want to do with an environment. I, for example, can stop that environment, I can look at the history of execution, I can edit the name, I can deallocate resources, Azure resources from it, I can go and click on maintain and, for example, send messages to online users saying that in 30 minutes we're planning an upgrade or something like this. So that's controls that you have for each environment. We also can scroll down and see if there are any updates available and apply those binary updates to our system to keep it up to date. All right, so that's basically managing the environment right here. Another thing that you can do, of course, is run something that requires updates. So for example, you can go and do the updates on it. You can, for example, do the system diagnostics, which I will show you here. It just shows you the status of the jobs that are executing. Are there any errors that were generated? So it shows me a dashboard, shows me any messages that were generated by the system. So something has failed here. It shows me the list of all the environments in this specific project, jobs, collections, etc. So you can see that that kind of allows me to monitor the performance of my system using the LCS portal here. Also, I can go and, for example, inquire a support, right? So I can go and create a ticket for my development team, or I can create a support ticket, for example, for Microsoft. So in this case, I have submitted to Microsoft. I can click on submit an accident, and I can open a case with Microsoft if you have a support plan with them to basically ask to troubleshoot a specific issue. Or you can create an active issue right here, which will actually create a ticket for your internal development team. And what this can be used for is just to get your issues resolved, I guess. And another thing that I would like to touch on here is something that is called a business process modeler. So that's something that Microsoft is trying to kind of solve by saying, okay, here's a list of all your business processes documented and recorded in a system that you can then share and generate documents on or share with your workers. And I will show you how the practical applications of it. But for now, let's take a look at the libraries and all the business processes inside it. So for this, I will click on the Business Process Modeler. So that's basically a library of business processes structured in some logical fashion. On the right-hand side, you see standard global libraries that were pulled from an organization called APQC, but also it allows you to create my own libraries. In this case, I have created Nexton Demo Processes library, and I will open it just to give you a sense of what it actually contains. So basically, here's your structure of all the core business processes. Underneath each, I will have subcategories and different categories. So for example, under my manage financial resources, I can go to perform revenue accounting, invoice customer, generate customer billing data, manage recurring invoices, and for example here I can generate and post recurring free text invoices. So that's a specific process, and we can take a look at what exactly it has. It has some sort of more or less Visio type diagram. And I will scroll up here. So a few things here. You can go and generate a document based on this process. You can go and modify that process by using Visio. But this process, it was not created from scratch. It was actually recorded in the system. And I will show you how you can do that. Because as soon as you record that process in the system, this diagram will be automatically created. The sequence of steps that you see here in the top right corner will be automatically generated also, right? So the idea here is if you need to record a process, do it in a system. So Power User does it in the system, and then save it in that library. When you save it in that library, you will get this flowchart and these steps automatically generated. Then you can just generate a document from it, or if you would like to modify that process slightly, you can use this activities to actually do that. All right. So I think it's a very powerful tool. Not many. I mean, I've been doing some implementations where companies were taking advantage of it. The best thing that I will tell you on it is, or the best selling feature of it is that you can then create automatic tests on it. So if you would like to run automatic tests after upgrade had happened, for example, you can save your tests as the processes in this library, and then with few additional steps, you can then go and execute these processes in your system, and then the system will return you a pass or fail, right? So the best reason for you to keep that library up to date and actually record your important, or at least some critical processes in that library, is that once you upgrade your system and you don't want to ask your users to run through 25 or 100 different test scripts, you just go and do that automatically, and the system will allow you to execute those test scripts. That's one of the best selling features that I can share with you here. All right, one more topic on the LCS is if we go back to our project right here, which will show us all the, take some time to load. Let me just click here. I would like to show you another thing, the last thing I would like to highlight in LCS. You can do some downloads from the system, right? So you can download demo data for your demo environments, for example. You can download do you have this connected? Just want to make sure.
I think that's all right.
Okay. We have a library, it's called Shared Asset Library, that allows you to download certain things. It allows you to download Power BI dashboards if you would like to reuse them. It allows you to download virtual machines if you would like to deploy an environment not on Azure but on your local server. You can do something that's called VM, virtual machine, that basically has a Dynamics 365 running on it. Okay, and so there is this shared asset library that you guys can use, and unfortunately it looks like I will not, it's still loading, but there's this shared asset library that you guys can use to download demo data, download virtual machines, download sample report packs that are available, or maybe download retail deployment packages and things like that. Does it make sense? All right, guys. So now we talked about families, we talked about how to manage the environments. Let's take a look at the D365 environment itself, right? So now we're going to switch and we're going to take a look at the environment itself. So in this case, I think I have it open right up here. So that's one of the versions of your home screens. It shows me some menus on the right-hand side, and it shows me a bunch of squares here. That is one variation of your home page or your starting dashboard. I would like to walk you through basic navigation here. So this is Dynamics 365 FO as seen by a system administrator, so the user that sees all the menus, all the forms, all the tables. So I have no security restrictions logged in right here. So the first thing we're going to take a look is the list of all the modules. For example, you click on accounts receivable, main menu, and it shows you all the AR modules in it, and then I can click on this. Basically, that's your main navigation structure. The same thing if I go, for example, into retail. I see all the features that are related to retail. I can see some product information, I see catalog information, I see discount information, I see customer information, I see some retail IT, etc. Right? So this is your main navigation. Once you see something that you would like to see, you just click on, you just select it, and it will show me, for example, the list of workers that were set up in my legal entity. All right. Another way to navigate is to use something that is called workspace, right? So for users, the workspace is an ability to create a home page that has all the relevant information on it in one place. And that place is called a workspace. And what Microsoft has done for us is it has created a list of 20 or so standard out-of-box workspaces, and I will open, for example, one of them, for example, a budget plan. And those workspaces are targeted to a specific position. That means if I'm a warehouse supervisor, I will probably have a warehouse management workspace, right? And here's my workspace, and while it's loading, I will just walk you through common areas here, or like the typical layout. On the left-hand side, you usually have those clickable tiles. So those tiles show you things that may be relevant to you that you can click on, and it will take you to a specific form directly. In the middle section here, we have different lists. So the lists that's showing us, for example, milestones, budget plans, and forecast positions, right? So those lists are clickable here as well. We can click on the forecast position number 1. If it's a blue, it's going to be a link, and it's going to take us to that forecast position for us to take a deeper look at it, right? So we have tiles that are clickable. So for example, if you click on this, it will take you to that underlying table. See, it's working here. Or we have the list. We have the lists right up here. It's a bit slow right here. And what I wanted to show you here, so you can see here, and then navigation is as navigation as the web server on your web page. You just click back, and it takes you back, right? So it's basically as if you navigate any website. If I scroll to the right here, I see I have embedded these 3 Power BI tiles, I call them. It's an ability for me to personalize that workspace and make it yours. So basically make it more relevant to you. So there's an ability for you to make it personal, right? So these personalizations were done to standard workspace, and those personalizations only apply to me as the user. No one else will see them. I can share those personalizations with other users if I want to, but I just personalize it to make it more relevant for myself. And what I've added here is the dashboards or reports that I have created in Power BI. So I just embedded them into my workspace, right? Yes.
So would the user do that, or would IT do that?
It's both, right? So usually users do that unless IT restricts personalizations. If those, by default, they're open, that means any user can go and personalize a workspace. But what IT can do is they can create their own personalization and then apply it to multiple users at once. So that ability for us to manage this personalization, and ability for us to restrict it as well, right? So those are Power BI dashboards that I've embedded into my workspace. They're clickable, so if I click on it, it's going to open me the report where I can actually do some interactive work, and I will show you this is actually Power BI, which I will be talking about later on, but just something for you to see, right? So now let's go back here. And the last part of any dashboard is links, right? So I have some relevant links that are specific to budgets here. So I can click on those links and it will take me there as well. So basically it's tiles on the left-hand side, lists in the middle, Power BI, tiles in the middle, and links on the right-hand side. This is a typical workspace that you can build. You can, as I said, you can modify and personalize a standard workspace. You can create your own workspace, call it whatever you want, and you will be able to access it. So you don't have to go by what Microsoft has created. Let's just kind of generally speaking, so navigation, tiles here. What also is useful is a search. It was not present there before, but that's an ability for you to find the correct form quickly, right? Because sometimes it can be very intimidating and very busy, even for myself, is how do I find, for example, customer groups here? There are so many different menus. Is it under AR? Is it under sales and marketing module? Is it somewhere else, right? So what we can use to find us help it is this search button right here. And I will start typing, and as you start And as you start typing, the system will actually start filtering the list for me. It will show the 10 most relevant setups. And if I type, for example, customer groups, it shows me right here. So you have a customer groups. It will tell me where that form is. It's under accounts receivable setup area, great. But can you take me there? Sure, you can just click on that and the system will take you straight to that setup, right? So that's an ability for you to find the menus easily. If you don't know where exactly they are, don't waste your time, just use that button right here. It's not a very advanced search engine like you would expect, but it still gives you enough to quickly find what you need. Of course, D365 FO is a multi-legal entity. That means we can have multiple companies, multiple legal entities within one environment. These multiple legal entities can be from different countries, different laws that apply, etc., etc. So how do I know which company I'm in here? Here it is right here. So here's a list of all the entities that I have set up in this environment. You can see this is USMF, so this is US manufacturing company, but I have a list of different retail companies from Russia here, from France, etc. So this is a demo Contoso environment, so it has a lot of Contoso companies here. So if I would like to switch to different companies, you just click on it, and now I'm in a different legal entity where I can have completely different access. For example, I can be a system admin in one company, but just a regular accounts payable user in another company, right? So you just have to pay attention to where you are using this company navigation. So let me just go back to USMF here. Now, remember when we talked about LCS, I talked about these libraries and the processes that are recorded there, right? So you may ask me, all right, where do I see that? How can I actually put it to test? And what you have here is something that is called task guide, right? And I would like to kind of spend some time on it because I feel it's a very useful feature that may be useful for you guys and for others as well. So for that, I will click on these gears, and I will want to navigate to Task Recorder. So what is Task Recorder in a nutshell? It's an ability for you to record the process, but also it's an ability for you to play the process in the system, right? So I've already done the recording, and I will show you how I can play it interactively in the system. Let's say I'm a new hire. I don't know how to create a customer. No one bothered to give me a document. All they said is just log into LCS, click on that gear, click on task recording, and select play recording as a guide. That's all I know. I said, great. And they told me how to find my process. Okay, I'm a new hire. I don't know how to create a customers, but now I would like to learn. So I would like to play recordings as a guide. The first thing is going to ask me, where do you want to open recordings from? Do you want to open it from this PC, or would you like to open it from that lifecycle services? This is our LCS library. I say yes, that's the one I would like to use. It's going to ask me, which library would you like to pull it from? I'm going to select it, and that's when it goes to LCS, to this process library that I have created, and it will show me all the categories that I saw there that I have created over there. Once it's going to load, I will show you. So basically, in this case, I'm relying on centralized process library that was recorded by my managers, by power users, and now it's available to me to be executed on. So I will navigate, for example, to manage customer service. I will click on plan and manage customer service and navigate to this, for example, category. And I'm going to click OK. So I will show you the guide, interactive guide. I would like to play that recording, but play it to me not just like a sequence of steps in a document, give it to me something a bit more interactive. And that interactive is the called task guide. And I'm going to start. So first of all, it shows me all the steps. I can read through them and maybe I can follow it. But if I don't want to do that, I would like to make it more interactive. I'm going to click on Start Task Guide. Right away, the system's saying we're playing it. And it's telling me right here in that pop-up, go to accounts receivable, customers, all customers, right? So this is where I can use my search function, or if I know where to go, I'm going to go to, all right, so I need to go to accounts receivable, great. I need to go customers, yes, all customers. As soon as I have completed that step, you will see that pop-up will go to the next screen and saying, all right, you have completed the first step, now it's time to do the second step. And now I need to click on you. I'm going to click on you, and the system says, all right, you have completed the second step here, and now you are on the third step. In the customer account field, type in a value, right? And I can make it more personal. I can add maybe some useful captions here if I want to. In this case, I didn't, so here I need to type in the account number, whatever that is. And then I will move on to the next step. I need to type in the customer name. That's the customer, for example, etc. But what I'm trying to illustrate here is it's very interactive. It feels when I have completed the step, it takes me through the process. right? And you can imagine that it can be very useful because it's interactive. And these processes were stored and confirmed as proper processes, and they've been recorded to the LCS library where they're available for any user that wants to take a look at them. So that's your task guides right here. All right, so what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna cancel out of it, and I'm gonna stop my task recordings here, and I'm gonna go back. So I don't want to create a customer for this one. Great. So we talked about general user interface features. I show you navigation, workspaces, task guides, legal entities, things like that. Now it's maybe time to go and take a look at selected few functionality. As you understand here, we have a lot of different modules. We can talk days about all the functionality that's available in FO. As I said, there's a lot of different modules, a lot of different functionality. So we can spend a day just on manufacturing piece. We can spend just a day on retail piece, right? We can spend a few days on warehouse piece, for example. But I would like to highlight something that I find, maybe useful for you to see. So the first thing I want to say is, because remember it has multiple legal entities, so it has different companies under one roof in one environment, how these legal entities talk to each other. They can talk to each other through a process that is called intercompany sales orders and purchase orders. So that's an ability for companies, if they are sister companies, talk to each other by creating sales orders and purchase orders and synchronizing those two. All right, so let's take a look. So what I will do is, in my company USMF, US Manufacturing, I will just go and create a sales order. But when I'm creating a sales order, I will create it for an intercompany or a sister company, right? So I will make sure it's not going to be just a regular customer of ours. It will be a specific customer that we have a relationship to. And I have defined a relationship between this customer and this legal entity. So this is my European subsidiary that I'm creating a sales order for. So I just pick the customer account, and when I'm done, I'm going to click OK. So it's going to create a brand new sales order for us. And right here, we got a message right away. We have saying that we have created an intercompany purchase order number 17. Great. So I know that as soon as I create a sales order in company A, it created a purchase order in company B. In this case, I will just quickly create a sales order for a specific item, for example, this one. And let's say the quantity will be 7, right? So there are 7 mid-range speakers that I would like to sell to this company. I'm gonna go now and check my related orders. So saying, are those orders synced? Are they not still synced? So I would like to check that. I'm going to click on related orders, and it will show me the list of all the orders that are related to that sales order. And the only order that is related is that purchase order number 17, and it is in the company DEMF, so that's my European subsidiary. And I would like to take a look at that order. Again, it's all clickable, blue links are clickable. I'm going to click on that PO number, and it will take me to DEMF company, so it took me to a different legal entity, and it shows me a purchase order. And look at that, that purchase order already has an item, and it already has the matching quantity. So by creating a sales order in company A, I automatically created a purchase order in company B, and now those are linked. So when my vendor or my customer, my other company ships that order, that PO will be marked as shipped, or to expected to receive. All the information on the pricing, quantity, dates will be all synchronized between those two orders, right? All right. What else in terms of functionality we can highlight here?
Within this, we have a approval also from from a holding company to a subsidiary. So we'll have the approval stages.
Approval stages?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have exactly. So if it will not generate a payable for you automatically or receivable for you automatically, it has to be approved first. Yes. Now, another thing, let me just go back to my USMF company. What I would like to show here is just kind of highlight a few areas. Does Dynamics 365 FO play nice with the rest of Microsoft? So the answer is yes. How do I know that? Because I have an Office integration button right here. I will show you how the it integrates with Office 365 in the later on, but on each form I have here, I will have an ability to integrate and open things in Excel or Word. I also have integration with my Power Platform, the Power Apps. I can integrate, embed a Power App in any form in Dynamics 365 using this Power App button right here. So when you click on it, you will see I can insert a Power App right here. So any form in Dynamics 365 F4, I can select and say, here's an app that I built specifically for that form to extend functionality. It's all about making sure that we avoid customizations and we use some Power Apps instead, and I will talk about that as well. So integration with Office, Power Apps, and you already saw how it integrates with Power BI by using those workspaces and the tiles that I've embedded there. All right, what else we can highlight here? On the manufacturing side, we have a full-fledged shop floor control functionality. What that means, quickly for people that may have interest in the production control, is I have an ability to extend and so what I'm showing here is it's basically something that will be deployed close to a machine, so on a production floor where I have a conveyor or a machine that runs, and I can embed this type of interface that can be sitting, for example, on a tablet that the user will use to do several things. So once I log in, this is your device terminal. It sits right next to the machine. I'm a machine operator. What I can use this for, I can use it, for example, for time and attendance. What that means is I can record my breaks. So I can click on break and say I'm taking a break from work. And that can feed into your payroll system. Is that break paid? Are you allowed to take this break, etc., like this. Now I can record my times against activities. So if I'm a production person, I'm an operator, I'm supposed to run the machine. But if someone calls me for a staff meeting or department meeting and things like that, my time that I spend the next hour in that meeting should not be going to the cost of the production order, because the time that I spent, I was not spending it to run the machine, I was actually spending it for some, what they call indirect activities. So I can define a list of indirect activities against which I can record my time. Again, it all links back to the payroll. So this is your time and attendance piece. I can clock in, I can take breaks, I can then, if I want to, you can say leaving, and you can select, you would like to clock out. So it's your clock in, clock out, take breaks, take activities. But also the second part of this interface is an ability to actually do production feedback. I'm an operator, so I'm supposed to execute production jobs. And here's the job that it would like me to execute right now. If I would like to switch to a next job, you just click on the next job, and it's going to take me to another job that I may want to take. I can click on the assign, and I can see all the jobs that are assigned to my machine, to my work center in this list, and I can quickly select the job that I would like to execute based on maybe on the input from my supervisor. All right. So let me just go back. Also, for example, if I would like to do a job, but I'm not sure how to do it, there is an ability for you to read instructions that someone attached to the product or a production order. So if you click on the instructions, it will show me, for example, a simple note that says, make sure the wiring is connected to the base. All right, so maybe some useful information before I start that job on the machine, I need to make sure that I check this or do this. I can also do the attachments here. So I can, for example, go and see a file here that gives me a preview right here. When I click on open, it will open the full document. So it's like giving as much information to the person that needs it, where he needs it, right? So I'm in my interface that I use all the time, where I can clock in, clock out, start jobs, end jobs, report productions, but also I can read the instructions on it, right? So as I said, then if you would like to start, you can click on start, report, and the time will start ticking. The time will be recorded against this production job. Then you can report the progress, enter good quantity, bad quantities, and it's going to record the time. It's going to compare the actual time that you've recorded doing that job versus the estimated job, and you're going to do all sorts of analysis for you. All right, great. Other thing that I would like to show you here is org hierarchies, right? So it's a visual thing, but the idea is for people that are in HR, they would like to structure everything. So you have positional hierarchies where you put a CEO at the top, maybe VPs on the next level, then you have regional managers, etc., etc. So you define a hierarchy. Why would you bother to define a hierarchy, you ask me? It looks good, yes, it looks good, but is there any functionality behind it? And the answer is yes. You can use this hierarchy to define who should approve a purchase requisition, for example. So when a user creates a purchase requisition, it may be directed to his manager. But how do I know who's that manager? It will use the positional hierarchy to decide this person has this manager, or maybe has two managers, and the approval should be sent to these two, and only one can accept to take that requisition and activate it, right? So positional hierarchies can be used for this purpose. We also have the organizational hierarchies, for example, that where you can logically build your retail structure. So in this case, I have retail stores by region. So I have a Contoso retail organization. Then I have these regions right here. So I have USA region, France region, and Russian region. If you click, for example, on USA and highlight it, it will show me all the different regions within Contoso USA. So I have East, West, and Central. And if I select, for example, East Central, it will show me all the retail stores that I have in Eastern United States. This hierarchy can be used for multiple purposes as well. I just wanted to show you that there's a lot of hierarchies in F&O, and they always have a specific business purpose for it. They're just not for visual. They actually are used by the system. In this case, they can be used, for example, for replenishment pieces. And the last piece on the highlights of the functionality here is that I will show you how you can go and create workflows. Workflows are useful. They allow you to control approval of certain document based on the process that you have defined here. So for this purpose, I will, for example, navigate to procurement and sourcing. And how it works is within each module, we have templates, workflow templates that we can choose to use or not to use, right? So you don't have to use purchase order approval workflow, but you may choose to you may activate it if you want to. So it's really up to you. There is a certain number of templates that you can use in each module, and it's your decision whether or not you would like to use a workflow approval for this process or not. So what I will go here is a procurement and sourcing workflows, and it will show me the list of all the workflows that I have created right up here. And if you select, for example, this purchase requisition review, I will be opening an editor that would allow me to review the current flow and then modify it if I need to. So for this, I will need to log in, unfortunately. And then what I'm doing is I'm logging into the editor. Unfortunately, that editor is not yet available in a web-based format. It's still available as outside. So I have to kind of activate it and click on it to actually open the workflow editor. So you can see it has a certain flow. It just kind of shows you, it illustrates you the touch points here. So we start, then we go into that decision whether or not the procurement approval is required. If the answer is yes, it's going to go through this workflow. If the answer is no, it's going to automatically approve it, right? So it's a logical structure that defines how each requisition should be submitted. You can create conditions, for example, to say, listen, if the person that submits a purchase requisition is this and this, we automatically approve. If the person submitting if purchase requisition is under $500, $5,000, that's another condition that we automatically approve it. We don't want to rubber stamp it. We don't want to add it to a queue. It's irrelevant. It should be automatically approved. So you define conditions, and then the system checks to decide whether or not each requisition should be a subject to approval. And if it is, then who exactly should get that approval step. And then you can also do relegations to different users if you're, for example, on vacation. You can also do some automatic actions. What if that approval sits idle for a week? Do we automatically reject it? Do we automatically escalate it? Do we automatically approve it, etc. Right? So it's a fairly powerful framework, and what I like most about it, it's available throughout the system. So I'm showing you the purchase requisition workflow, but the same thing exists on the purchase orders. The same thing exists, for example, vendor invoices. The same thing exists, for example, for catalog approvals. You can import things from your vendor portal, and then you can automatically create products from it. Again, it will be subject to vendor catalog approval process, right? So what I like about it, it's the same structure that you see here is available in almost any module in the system. And of course, you can build your own custom workflow. It will require some effort on your dev team, but the framework is open in that area as well. Right. So that's basically a few features that I wanted to highlight for you in the D365 FO itself. Now, I would like to talk, and we've got this 1 hour, so we're good. So I would like to talk about extensions, right? So everything that I've seen so far were kind of on the same page, right? So I was kind of in this one tab of my browser. I was showing you all sales orders, navigation, task reporting. It was all within one page, right? But it needs to be extended to users that will not necessarily use it in a web-based format. They will not open browser like Chrome or Edge, and they will not log in to a website, and they will not be using this. This screen is too busy. It's good for the desktops, but it's not good for the handhelds, or it's not good for mobiles, for example, right? So there are two interfaces that I'll show you that can be relevant for certain companies. Okay, where is it? Right. So I'll show you the retail POS interface very quickly, and I'll show you warehouse. So retail, where is that going to run? It's going to run on the cash register. So we have a machine, either it's a full workstation, desktop that runs this, or it's a handheld that maybe a sales associate uses to start the transaction, or a tablet. And you just envision that this thing is used in the retail store. And again, it can run nicely on any device, mobile, tablet, any form factor. So this is what I'll show you next. And the second thing is I'll show you how warehouse person that has a handheld with a scanner in a warehouse can use this interface to receive purchase orders or ship goods out, right? So two different interfaces, two different users, but those are not those are not directly accessible from D365 interface, but they are connected to it. So it's all live database. All these feeds that we're going to get there is going to be live. Okay, so let's talk about retail first. So I have my retail front. And this is something that is called cloud POS. So this is actually a cloud version of my point of sale software, right? I logged into a website, and now I need to enter my employee ID and my password. I have the same interface that is available as the client. It's called modern POS and POS. They provide you the same functionality. This is a bit easier to show and deploy. So that's why I'm showing it to you right here. So once I log in to my store, I will see a bunch of buttons here, right? All these buttons were created, I can modify them, etc., etc. So what if I would like to create a sales order for the system, from the system? And let's talk about a scenario where someone just walks to me and say, here's something that I would like to buy, can you cash me out, can I pay for it? Yes. But let's say we're talking about a scenario where I walk in and I place a personal order. So let's say I would like to buy a couch, right? That is not available in the store. It will need to be shipped to you, right? And A, the order needs to be created. B, that order needs to be sent to my DC, to my warehouse. And D, these people should see that order in my warehouse and start picking and packing, right? So let's talk about this. So the first thing is, using the catalogs and the categories. So I have two ways of looking at it. So for example, here I'm going to select some sort of handbag that is not available in my store. So yes, it shows me the picture of the item, it shows me a bunch of specs which I can add to it. It's all kind of personalized, shows me a description. It shows me related products, which is again another AI feature that's saying based on the historical sales, when people buy this bag, they also may be interested in this one. Anything that you expect from any online e-commerce web store like Amazon, for example. And if I'm happy, I would like to add this item to a transaction, I can do that. All right, so I have completed the first step, is I've added this item to my transaction. Here it is, one green leather bag, the total is $318.75. The next step is, let's say this bag is not available and the customer wants it to be shipped. Not a problem. So first we need to find the customer here. So you can search based on the customer, and it's going to use any of these letters. I can search based on the customer ID, customer name, address, etc. Right? I don't want to spend much time. It's what you would expect from a modern system that that can do that for you. So let's say I'm going to pick that person, Karen Berg. Shows me her ID, shows me her recent purchases, some wish lists. Okay, so and it shows me some attributes as well. So she notes she's a walk-in customer, etc. So I would like to add this customer to a transaction now here as well. So I'm going to click on +2. So now I've added my item, I've added my customer. The next thing I need to do is to create a sales order. So I'm going to click on that Create Sales Order button. You will see what we'll notice here is right now it's 302.81. That's what it will cost me if the person would like to do cash and carry. Here's my bag, I would like to pay for it, and I will walk away from it. But if we create a sales order, you will see that the fields will change, and the total will drop to $3. Why is that? It's because the default deposit percentage is 10%. So what we're saying is, in order for us to take your order that will be delivered 2 days from now, we need to take 10% deposit. Right? So on the walking away, you owe me 10% of that, the rest will be charged on delivery. I can override it and I can change the deposit to something else. So if you, for example, do this, it's saying maximum override amount is 302.81. So I can say, okay, so let's charge her full amount because she wants to pay for it in full. All right, that's one thing. Now, the next piece is to take the payment. So I've already selected the item, I selected the customer, I specify, all right, so for me to take the payment, I need to specify how I will deliver this item. Will it be picked up in the store later on? Will it be ship all? I'll say, let's do ship all. So which carrier we'll use? We'll use custom pickup or standard overnight. Let's do the standard overnight. Is there going to be any shipping charges? In this case, it's going to be free charge, so I'm going to click OK. What date would you like it to be delivered? Would you like it to be delivered today or tomorrow? Let's do the tomorrow one. So now I specified my delivery details. And once I'm done that, we're basically going to click on pay cash or any credit card payment or anything like this, and we're going to complete the transaction. And what will happen here, and it will tell us if there's any change to begin. Why I'm showing all this is because I remember I had this green bag created for Karen. Now I show you it's all real-time integration. I'm going to go to USRT, which is a legal entity that is connected. USRT. So I have to go to a company that has this retail stores, and I will go to my retail module, and I will go to my all sales orders for that specific legal entity. And on the bottom here, you see that sales order for Karen Berg was created for Houston store. If I click on it, just to see, because this was all real time, I see my green leather bag created here. So right away, as soon as I completed the transaction on the POS, I took the payment, I took customer information, confirmed delivery addresses and things like that. As soon as I took the payment, that order is in here. And that order is available to be picked and packed by my staff. So basically, fulfillment part can actually start as soon as we take the payment and complete transaction. So this is your real-time integration, where that sales order gets into my system right away, and I can release it to warehouse, and I can pick that sales order the same day and ship it as quickly as possible. So there's no waiting time. It's all real-time integration. Okay, so that's the retail part. One thing that I'll show you in retail is that if I would like to fulfill it using the POS terminal instead, I can use this order fulfillment screen. That's a screen that actually shows me all the orders that I have created. And you see that's the order 5x8. That's the one I created on today's December 4th. So I can, for example, pick that sales order, and if I'm using this interface to mark my orders either as picked or shipped, I can click on pick or ship, for example, from here, right? So I can use more standard interfaces to pick and pack my items, or I can use POS terminal itself to mark the order as either picked up or delivered. That's a fairly new functionality that is called order fulfillment, distribution order management, they call it DOM. New feature, just to make it as simple as possible, because maybe companies would like to use this screen instead of the back office. Okay, now on the warehousing app. For this, I will open another extension, another interface here, and it's called warehousing app itself. So I have Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operation warehousing app. That app can be run on either Android devices or Windows 10 devices. So this is an interface, connects directly to my database. I will have to log in with my warehouse account. Bathroom break? After this one.
Okay.
All right, just 5 more minutes and we can take a break.
Perfect.
All right. Now, what is this used for? This interface is used to receive purchase orders, ship sales orders. It's used to do inventory counts. It's used to, for example, do the transfers and things like that. Let me show you a few things here. I'll make it like this. I can go and say, system, I'm a sales order picker. I need to know what to pick next. You click on sales picking system, and all this menus, of course, was created before that. And right away, the system tells us, you need to go to this location, FL001. You need to find this item, A0001. It looks like this. There are optional pictures if you want. It shows you a description, and you need to grab 10 pieces of that item. Right away, it tells me and guides me, this is where you need to go, and this is what you need to do. Right? So I can complete the picking process from here. Or I can cancel of it and show you another piece, which will be your receiving of the purchase order. So now I have shipment coming in into my dock area, and I have some vendor packing slip in front of me, and I would like to start the receiving process. I'm going to click on receive process. It's going to ask me about a PO number, and usually you scan this. So you enter this PO number, for example, and it's going to ask me about the item that you're trying to receive. Again, you may scan it or get it from a packing slip, and then you start entering the quantity. So this is a PO receiving process. I can ship things out, and in this case, the system will guide me to a specific warehouse location where it needs to be picked, or I can start receiving things that showed up at my door, and I just need to scan the PO number, item number of pieces, etc., etc. Right? So this is basically a warehouse piece, and it is connected to D365 database in real time as well. So as soon as I update a purchase order and mark it as received using this interface, it will be marked as received in my D365. All right, guys. So we spent like more than an hour now. So if you want, we can take what 5-10 minutes break and we can back in 10 minutes, I guess.
Have a snack. There's lots of food.
Alright, guys. So we can continue here. We're kind of halfway done through our agenda. So we have another hour and a half, and I will probably be talking for the next hour, and then I will probably give you an opportunity to ask questions if you have any, right? But I want to make sure that I go through the material. So we're still going to have like a good 20 minutes or so left for any Q&A. All right. So we saw retail, POS, we saw warehouse piece, but now let's talk about the security inside D365 FO. It has a structure that is shown right up here, right? So it has a multi-level structure that starts with security roles on the top. You have 85 or so roles that are out of box, and those roles are position specific. So for example, you have accounts payable clerk, you have warehouse supervisor, warehouse picker, you have CFO, for example, and things like that. So you have position-specific security roles, and there are 85 out-of-box roles. You can create your own personalized one. You can copy the existing role and modify it and make it yours, and that's what a lot of companies actually are doing. Within each role, you have a list of duties that are available to that role. So you have, what do you have here, 850 or so out-of-box roles, and these duties, and these duties are combined into the roles. And then within each duty, you have a level below, which is a privilege, and then underneath each privilege, there's permissions, right? So that's basically a logical structure. So it starts with security role, moves on to duty, then each duty has privileges, and each privilege has a set of permissions that define access to specific forms, menus, and tables, right? Terminology that may be used here is that inquire or view certain form is read-only access. Maintain certain form is a full control, so you can read, create, and delete. And then you have enable, which is a setup area. Now, let's take a look in the system, because I think I wanted to start with slide, but I wanted to show you the real thing in here. So I will navigate, because it's a security roles, I need to navigate to system administration module, which not many business users will have access to. It's mostly for IT professionals. And in here, I will click on the security configuration. So here's a list of my roles right here, right? You can see accounts payable clerk, you see buying agent, you see CEO, CFO, etc. And you have quite a list here, right? For example, process engineer. So I'm going to highlight that specific role, and it's going to show me all the duties, privileges, and tables that are involved in it. So if I click on duties, I would like to see all the duties that process engineer role will have. And here's a list of all the duties. If, for example, I select a specific duty, approve BOMs, I would like to see which privileges are included in approved BOM, and I can see within the duty of approved BOMs, I have 3 privileges: approved BOM versions, approved BOMs, and view BOMs, right? So it gives me a sense of what each role can do. So this is kind of more of a breakdown, kind of more manual ways. Then I can click on duties, and it will show me the list of all these 850 or so duties that are available here. And again, remember the terminology: view, enable, maintain. So we have to pay attention to this. So if it's inquire, that means it's a read only. If it's maintain, that means it's a full access, read, write, and delete, right? And then of course the privileges here as well. So nothing very exciting here. For IT people, you usually grab the existing out-of-box security role, copy it, and then modify it. The good practice is to not modify a standard role, because you will never be able to go back to the previous setups. Copy the existing role and modify it by adding certain privileges or by adding removing certain privileges. Now, if you remember, we have a list of 850 duties. Another piece that Microsoft gives us is an ability to define something that is called segregation of duty rules, SOD rules. What is that for, you may ask me? So in large organizations, you want to make sure that one person cannot, for example, create purchase order, approve purchase order, and approve payment method. Right? So it's a risk from us audit perspective, because one person can create a PO to his own relative and pay that PO. So we would like to find maybe rules that would prevent that from happening. And those what the segregation of duty roles are used for. So I'm going to click on segregation of duties, and I'm going to look at the segregation of duty rules. I have created one sample rule here just for us to take as an example. So I define a rule, say segregation of duties rule, and it says first duty, approved vendor invoices cannot be combined with approved purchase orders. That means these 2 duties cannot be assigned to one user, period, right? It's a risk, and we need to make sure that we monitor it. We can then click on validate duties and roles on the top, and the system will show us any conflicts, any users that break that rule. Now, one user can break that rule because he got one duty from one security role, and he got a second duty from a second security role. So 2 different roles give them these 2 duties. In this case, it's not a problem with the security role itself, it's a problem that user got these 2 roles assigned. So we may need to decide whether or not we need to remove one role from a user or a second role from the user. Or we can leave it like that, but then we have to enter the mitigation strategy. Another way the conflict can happen is when these 2 duties were added into one security role. So within the role itself, you have a conflict because these 2 duties exist there. So as soon as you assign that security role to any user, that user will automatically be in a conflict to that rule. So in this case, you may want to monitor the roles that you create to make sure that none of these duties are not combined. So there are 2 types of conflicts. I just want to describe it to you to make sure that you understand. Okay, so those were security roles, duties, privileges, SOD rules, etc. Another piece that I like about the dynamics is the ability to personalize forms. So far we looked at them, they look the same, but they really can be modified. One of the first things that user modify is those grids, these lists. I have a certain number of columns. They are arranged in a certain fashion. Can I change it? The answer is yes. You can go through a personalization form. So I'm going to click on the Options tab on the top, and I will click on Personalize this form. So it's going to give me that bar that would allow me to do certain things. For example, if I would like to move columns around, if I would like to move the currency column after the telephone, for example, I would like to do that. So you click on this Move button here. It's going to ask me which field would you like to move. I'm going to select this one, and then you just go and drop it after the telephone. So now I have moved my currency after the telephone. So this is the simplest, the most basic way to personalize is to actually move columns around. Another one, if you would like to hide certain columns, you can certainly do so. You can right-click on the field, and then the options that will give you is, would you like to hide that field? Is it relevant to you? If the answer is no, it's not relevant, it just makes my screen busier, then you can just click on hide. And these columns will disappear. So we move the columns, we can hide the columns. Now, does it affect other users, you may ask me? And the answer is no. It's a personalization. That means it's only applied to my user account. This changes, you will not see that changes if you log in yourself. All right. Now, the question is, can you share those, can you reuse those personalizations? If that personalization makes sense to other users in my department, can they also use it? The answer is yes. You can click on Manage here. You can then export that customization. You can give the file to your user, and then they can import that personalization to make the screen look like yours. All right. But there's a bit more centralized function. So I'm going to exit out personalization, and I will show you a tool that IT managers will use to manage personalizations that their users have created. And if I would like to kind of see what's going on, I can use a new menu item that is called personalization. Again, I don't know where it is. I forgot where it is. I will use the search. So I'll start typing, and I will click on personalization menu. So it's a system administration setup. What is that form used for? It's used by IT managers to actually go and it's used by IT managers to go and create and manage personalizations. Sorry about that. All right, so first of all, I can click on settings and I can say enable personalization, yes or no. So I can disable it for all the users. The second thing I can do, I can delete all personalizations for all the users. If I know that people have done personalizations, it makes life of my support desk harder because screens are so much customized that it's hard to read through them right now. Then you can change that as well. You can disable it. Now you can apply personalizations. For example, if you select a specific security role, it will show you, for example, for this role, user Oscar has a personalization. And then you can either import that personalization from file or export it to another user. Then you can also use it per user. So in this case, I have to select the user that I'm interested in, for example, myself, I'm an admin here. And it shows me all the forms that I have personalized. And from here on, I can select a specific personalization, export it into the file, select a different user, and import it for him. Right? So that's an ability to centrally manage these personalizations and share them among different users using these screens, or disable personalizations altogether. And the last field that you have here is actually clearing personalizations for specific security roles. So for example, you select this, let me just find this. So for example, I've modified asset table, right? You see there is my name here, Alexei Horoshilov, I'm a user admin, I've modified this, so I can click on the clear to actually clear that personalization. Okay. Now, let's go back to our customers, and what they introduced recently is an ability to quickly and easily add custom fields without any development work. So a lot of times, can we have a field that stores, whether or not the customer PO is required before we create a sales order? There is no such field out of box. And before you were forced to involve a developer that will modify that form, add these tables, etc., etc. Now you don't really need to do that because you can quickly create a custom field yourself. And that is done by using the personalize menu as well. So I have to click on personalize this form, and the next thing I need to select is what do I want to do. I would like to insert a new field. So I'm going to click on insert, and I will select field. What system is asking me to do now is select the area where you would like to add that new field. So I have to select, for example, this specific area right here. Now, once I selected the area, the system said, all right, here's a list of all the standard existing fields that you can add, right? So I can add any of those fields by just selecting, checkbox right here. So this is a way for you to personalize that form, not by hiding existing columns, by adding existing columns. But what if that field, I don't have that field and I would like to create it. So from latest releases, you have the ability to create a new field. And in this case, you need to select which table will store that field. So in this case, it will be customers table because I'm on the customer file. I will enter the, for example, some caption. Is it? Just type it correctly. Is PO required? That will be the name of the field. The label will be as well, the same thing. Now, here's my type of the field. Is it text field? Is it number? Or is it date? Or is it checkbox? In this case, it's going to be a checkbox. And I can enter a help desk personally, optionally here as well. And then you can click on save. It's going to tell me that it's going to add a brand new field to the customer table. Okay, it's saying that I cannot have any question marks here, so and probably no spaces, so I'm going to correct that. And now I've added a brand new custom field. Okay, it's being added. And the beauty of it is that I can populate that field using data entities. Remember, we had a customer account data entity that has all the fields about the customer. And now I can go and I can add that brand new custom field to that entity. So applications can update that field and application can read from that field, right? So that's a very important portion of it, is that it's not just, it's not just there, it's not visible, but it's actually going to be visible and can be updated by different applications that may use it, because it can be added to a data entity. That's the most important piece here. So it's actionable, it's not just there. So you can update it, you can add it to an existing data entity, for example, for customers, and you can update that field then later on. So that's basically on the user access. So we have security, roles, privileges, and duties. I showed you how you can do the personalization, and you can also do the ability to add custom fields. All right. Now, let's move on.
Right now, sorry?
Huh?
I can't see that part.
It's right there, but see, it has this label, says custom field. So here's your, it's right there. I don't know why it didn't pick up the right label, right? Because the label is what usually is seen in the, like a help text. And then I've added the comments. So the comments was an existing field, and this one was the, they're not editable because I'm not in edit mode. Once I'm in edit mode, I can enter the columns, and then I mark it as yes. Right. All right. So this is security access. Now let's switch gears. Let's talk about, we will be talking in the next section about reports, right? Different types of reports, operational and financial. For the first portion, we will be talking about financial reports. So there is a tool that used to be called FRX. Then it was renamed to financial reporting. Now it is, it was renamed to management reporter. Now it was renamed back to financial reports. What is that? It's an ability for you to easily define, create definitions for your financial statements, income statements, balance sheets, etc., etc. So I will show it to you. That is used primarily and only for your financial reports. So the first thing I need to do is I will open my Dynamics and I will navigate and open my financial report. So this will take me to general ledger area, and then from there on I will click on financial reports. So this will show me all the definitions that I have created. For example, balance sheet, I have my income statement, etc. Right? So the first thing you may ask me, Alexei, what these definitions are, how these reports would look like. Okay, I will show you how they look, but I'll show you how you do that first. So you need to click on Edit, and it's going to take me to that editor that would allow me to look at the definitions of that report and modify it if needed. Right? This is just going to, it's a one-time setup that you need to do. It's going to open an editor, which again, it's going to take me to outside of, it's going to take me to outside of the system, hence I need to log in. Okay, so now my financial report designer will open up. And we need to be able to understand it, to be able to read it. I'm not going to go into details, but I will give you a building blocks of it. First of all, you need, for each report, you will need to have a definition, report definition. So right now, we're looking at a report definition for balance sheet default. This report definition has rows definition right up here, and then column definitions. So if I click on rows definition, it will show me which rows are included in that report. And see, I have numbers for each rows, I have description for each, some of them are bold because those are summary accounts, etc. And then you have any formulas that will be used right here to filter on specific account ranges and maybe specific financial dimensions, right? So that was your row definitions. But also, if I go back to my report definition, I have definitions for columns, right? Because maybe I have different for different fiscal years here. So in this case, it's actual base, which is current year, base -1, which is the previous year, etc. So basically defines the rows and the sequence of each row, and then the columns. And then you put those together into a report definition. And this is what we have. And those I have not created, they come out of box. For the people that know how to modify them, you just go to report definition, change the rows, change the columns, save it, and now your report looks different. So this is a designer, and I have not designed those because they came already like that. You can modify them if you need to. All right, the next thing is what you can do here is you can group your reports into groups. So I have report group here, balance list and balance sheet that I created. And this is a group of reports, and it has 2 reports in it, right? So it's very simple. You're just grouping your definitions into a report group. Why would you do that? Is because you can define report schedules. So in this case, I have created an annual schedule that says, I'm going to refresh my reports that fall within that report group, balance list and balance sheet once a year. Right? So that means the information will be pulled in from a database, Dynamics 365 database, and will be refreshed daily, weekly, etc. Or you can open the report definition manually in the system yourself, and then you will generate a report based on the live data. And of course, there's security that you can define here as well. So this is a one-time setup, report definitions, row definitions, column definitions, report groups, and how you update those using the schedules. Now, once we've done this setup, now we can see the report in action. So I have this one version that I can look at, and I'm going to look at this balance sheet statement. So now when I click on it, it's actually going to go and generate it based on the live data. It actually goes and generates a report based on this report definition that we just saw, right? What is that for me to add here is that it's clickable. So if you would like to look at the total cash and cash equivalent, you can click on it. It's going to open it and concentrate only on this specific section. If you would like to go back, you need to close it, and it's going to take you straight back to the original report. What you can also do here is you can run through reporting options, and you can do the filters on a specific attribute. For example, if you would like to filter on a specific currency code or a specific plan or specific date, you can apply the filters on the attributes, and you can also apply filters to financial dimensions, right? So there's a whole framework of financial dimensions that exists in D365 FO, and you can filter your transactions or that specific statement based on specific value in specific financial dimension that can be user defined. And then you can run some what-if scenarios to 2 years plus minus for the reports, right? So there's ability to run some what-if scenarios. Overall, it's fairly standard. Personally, I know that this tool is used primarily by finance people to run their reports. It used to be a management reporter before. So for
You can
people
go
that,
to the sum and you can click the drill down and see the history.
for the transactions,
Like total, if I see the total of cash, so this sum of what account grouping is done. Okay. And
Yes.
further I can go, they used to do it in FRX.
Yes, you can do that, right? When you define the report definition, you can define whether or not it's only summary or the other transactions. So if you do this, the report definition with all the transactions, it will, when you click on this total, it will show you that.
Management reporter take to the actual transaction listing
Yes.
to apply.
Yeah, because it all depends on how you build that report definition. That's my point, right? All right, so that's a financial report that you can do. This is a primarily tool for balance sheet and income statement reporting. Yeah. Now there's a big area of your operational reporting. So usually your operational reports are not done using FRX, not done by financial reporting. Right now you can use, for example, lists inside Dynamics 365, but the tool that becomes more and more powerful right now is Power BI. So why would you use Power BI? Because it's a great visualization tool, right? And the great thing about it, in certain cases, there is a free license that allows you to pretty much use a lot of free features in there that are very powerful, right? So Power BI is a visualization tool. And it's quite powerful because it can get its data from multiple sources. They try to make it as simple as possible for user to pull data from anywhere we want, right? And it's quite powerful in visualizing it, and it's quite powerful in how that content or those reports or those dashboards that you created in Power BI are then distributed to users. Okay? And this is what I would like to take you through right now. And the first thing we need to answer is, okay, this is my Power BI editor. So this is a screen that I can create reports in. I can create reports in my web-based Power BI, but this kind of has a bit more features, so I would like to use it. So the first thing we need to answer is, where do I get my data? What are my data sources, right? Because that's probably the first thing you need to answer. And in this case, I will just show you the list of all data sources that the Power BI supports. I can pull it from file, it can be CSV file or a specific folder or Excel file. I can pull it directly from SQL database, right, something that is to be expected. You can pull it from Power BI dataset, or you can pull it from OData, for example, right here. Where's it? OData? Right here. OData is a protocol or an ability to pull data directly from Dynamics 365. Now, so all these data sources are available, but now we need to ask a more specific question is, how can we pull data from Dynamics 365 FO, right? Because I can pull it from Excel, I can pull it from D365 CE, but how do I get data from FO, from my D365 FO? So there are multiple ways. The first one that was quite popular before used to be called OData, and I have it saved under my recent resources. OData is a great tool. It connects to live database, it gets live data, but it is slow and it does not support large volumes. If you would like to pull multiple, like thousands and thousands of records, it does not support it very well. It just becomes too slow. All right, so if you tell me, OData can be used, but for smaller data sets, great, it's live. What else can we use? We can use something that is called entity store. So basically what Microsoft says is we have a live database that we protect. We do not allow you to run reports against that live database, right? Okay, so how do I pull data from it? Then they create an entity store that is refreshed periodically based on what Microsoft says, a reasonable schedule. So we're going to copy that data from live database into something that is called entity store. And the entity store is basically all these entities that we saw from CDS, for example. They will be there and they will be refreshed periodically based on the schedule. And then you can run your reports on these entities instead. So it's not real time, but it's near real time. So for your operational reporting, if that data was refreshed this morning and you're requiring of it this afternoon, I think they are saying it's good enough. And that allows them to protect the database, so there are going to be no large queries running against it, the performance will not suffer. That's basically the one of the main reasons why they did that. So that's your entity store. And of course, you can also create your own database. They call it BYOD, bring your own database, copy whatever you want into that database, add information from different data sources, and then run your reports based on your own database, right? So those are the three most popular options. What I will be doing here is, for this demonstration, I will go and create a simple report, and I will show you how simple it is for a person that knows very little, like myself, about Power BI, to build something meaningful using Power BI, right? So this will be my demonstration for the operational reports. So for these purposes, I opened data source OData. So that connects directly to my Dynamics 365 instance. Here's my demo instance that we're looking at, all right? So it shows me all the entities in this list right here. So I will pull two entities just for you to show. So the first one I will call, it is called customer group. Okay, so here's my first entity I'm pulling in. I'm going to select the checkbox. And the second one is customers. So I selected two data entities, customers and then customer groups. Each customer belongs to one customer group. That's basically as simple as that. And I'm going to load. What the system does right now, it connects to my database using that OData connection, and it inquires, give me the table for customer groups and give me the table for customers. That's basically what it's doing, right? And it will take maybe half a minute or so. So this is what, and I'm building that report. I just would like to build it pretty quickly, but I think it's so powerful for you to understand how easy it is, because I was kind of impressed myself a little bit too. All right, so now I've added these data sources. How do I know that? Because I see it in my lists, right? All right, so let's do the first option here. I will select this first visualization, whatever that graph is. It's blank right now. Why? Because it doesn't have any data feeding into it. All right, so what data would I want to add to it? I will open my customer group entity and say, in my values, right here, I have to select. In my axis, select the customer group. First action. For my legend, so people understand, I'm going to select customer group ID as well. What will I put in my values? I will put the count of all the customers in each group. So for this, I will open the second entity, customers, and I will find the customer account. Here it is. And I will put it under values. Okay, it might not be as impressive, but I just say, it shows me the count, how many customers do I have in each group, right? So if I select this one, it shows me in customer group 3, I have 16 customers, right? That's why I'm somewhere around 16. Great. I mean, that's great. What I will do next is, I will then just go and say, all right, what about the names, right? Because I would like to put some context behind it, and I don't see anything relevant here. So I will add and just drag and drop to another here, customer accounts. So here it shows me all the customer accounts here, right? So far I was just drag and dropping, but for me to make it more relevant, I think I need a name, right? So I will find the name column and I'll add it here as well. Okay, so I have count by customers in each customer group, and I have list of all the customers. But then look, I select specific customer group, and it filters the list of customers for me. So now it shows in customer group 10, you have that many customers. And I did not link those. I just say, here's my 2 data sources. It knew the relationship existed because of all the data entities and how relationships were defined here. If I would like to look at this group and say how many customers I have here, it looks like I have only 1. So I'm going to click on it, and it's going to show me that this group has only 1 customer, and it's called Contoso Retail USA. If I click on this one, it's going to show me another customer that belongs to this one. If I click on this one, that's the largest list, it shows me all the customers here. If I would like to unfilter that list, click anywhere, and now it shows me all the groups and all the customers. I think, I was kind of amazed because I did not define any relationship. It was smart enough to kind of figure out the relationship between those two on its own. Changing visualizations too, right? So I select this and say if I would like to have vertical charts, you can do it this way. It's really up to you how you would like to pitch it. So all these options here is for you to visualize the data, right? There are a lot of options. You can do pie charts and things like that. You can create your own. So it's really how you visualize the data. That's the second part. So we already talked about what data we get, and I already explained that we're going to get the data directly through D365 using OData connection. Now, how we present that data is all these visualization options. You have maps and things like that. So there's a lot of ways you can visualize that option, visualize these reports. Okay, the third part of it, so what data, how to visualize is, and how to distribute. So let's say I've done my report and I would like to share it. So what are my sharing options, right? So you have options to publish it to Power BI dashboards, which is what I will do. I've already done it, so I already have a report ready and sitting here for me. So I will open my Power BI dashboard, and under my workspaces, I will select a report that is called Customers and Customer Groups. And it's basically what I built here, right? Okay, how do I share this? So do I need people to come in here? Can they subscribe to updates? Can they do anything with it? All right, so let's take a look at the options. We're going to click on File. And first of all, I can save it as a file. I can print it. I can publish it to web, so I can embed that code into my website. The options that I can save it to PowerPoint, save a copy. What you don't see here is an ability to post to SharePoint. So far, I'm showing you just a free Power BI option. I do not pay for the subscription. It's free to use. I was able to create a report. I was able to visualize it, and that did not cost me $0, right? So that's a free Power BI subscription. The premium features, there are a few premium features that cost around $10 or $12 per month per user, would allow me to post, for example, that report to a SharePoint. Another premium feature, and I need to be honest here, is an ability, for example, to subscribe to updates. What that does, it's going to tell me right here, so I need a pro version. What the subscription to updates does is as soon as the data refreshes, it will generate an email saying, such and such report got updated. It will give you a screenshot in the email. You can define the frequency with which you're going to receive an email, once a day, once a week, etc. And you will be able to go then and check the report itself. Another feature that I like, and it's a premium feature too, you can subscribe to alerts saying that here's my report and I would like to monitor the value of open cases, for example. If the open cases count goes above 5, I need to be notified. I would like to keep that number under 5. So if that number stays below 5, there are going to be no alerts generated. As soon as that number goes above 5, I will get an email notification saying that for such and such report, number of open cases, customer cases, were 66, for example, right? And in this case, I will be notified. So this is an alert feature that is also premium, right? But not everything is premium here, and there are a lot of things that I like and they're free of charge. So for example, let's talk about related information. So I open that report and I'm going to click on settings, and in here I will go into my data scheduled refresh. It's going to take some time to refresh. But the basic idea is, how often do I want the system to go and refresh that data? This data using OData connection will be automatically refreshed every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes, every time I run that report, I will get a report that is at least, not at least, but at the maximum 15 minutes late, 15 minutes old. Or you can do the schedule refresh if you feel that is not really needed to be refreshed every 15 minutes. You can define a daily schedule or weekly schedule. So that's an ability for you to how often your data source is updated, because it's important. Right now, it's updated every 15 minutes. If I would like to make it less frequent, you can just set up and do the scheduled refresh. All right, that's number one. Number two is, if I go back to my report, what I like about it is an ability to generate useful insight. So let me just give you an opportunity, sample here. So I have opportunity analysis sample, bunch of information, number of opportunities segregated by stage, segregated by budget size, by revenue, and all sorts of things, right? How do I derive any useful insight? It's hard for me to follow it, and you can rely on that